Hello and welcome to this quick chat titled A High-Level Look at the Recent Updates to the MUTCD and What They Mean for You. Hello, I'm Gavin Jenkins, Senior Managing Editor of Roads and Bridges. Let's dive into this. Today, we'll be discussing an overview of key updates in the recently updated Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, otherwise known as the MUTCD, which was released in December of last year. We're going to cover a few of the high-level changes that were introduced, including new guidance for speed situations, updates to temporary traffic control layout, accommodating pedestrian areas and work zones, and much more. Discussing some of the new requirements with me is Bill Birdwell. Bill has worked in traffic engineering and operations for over 35 years. His background encompasses temporary traffic control, traffic signals, pavement markings, and resolution of traffic safety issues, just to name a few. Bill has been a master instructor for the American Traffic Safety Services Association for 20 years and teaches ATSSA's training courses nationwide. He also is the owner of Southwest Traffic Solutions, LLC. Bill, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here today.
Great. Good to talk to you. Let's dive into this. All right.
Okay.
Question one. The MUTCD has undergone several changes. Today, we're just going to discuss a few. So let's start with, does the new MUTCD include updated typical applications for use in laying out temporary traffic control?
It does. For example, there's an updated layout for work near intersections that provides additional guidance on merging traffic prior to a decision point that might otherwise have left it to the driver to determine the action based solely on the advanced warning signs. A left lane must turn left situation, for example, is a common occurrence. If a driver makes a mistake and needs to be in the right lane, they may block traffic and create a queue and back traffic up even farther than what would normally be anticipated by the driver.
All right. Are there any changes to guidance and requirements for high-speed situations, such as freeways? And can you tell us more about the additional merging guidance for drivers?
Sure. There's a lot more attention to this issue in the updated MUTCD. Specifically on freeways, the speed variability issue is what contributes to the severe crashes that we're seeing. And those are the main ones that we are trying to eliminate, or the MUTCD is trying to eliminate, I should say. Within the fundamental principles section, there is additional guidance for analyzing potential cues that can assist agencies with developing mitigation strategies. For example, back of queue, advanced warning. The result is updated DOT policy initiatives on protecting users in these situations. This is a good lead into merging guidance, as the FHWA added a late merge typical application to the new MUTCD. It includes sign applications that help drivers understand how to merge safely, thereby reducing impacts from a stationary lane closure.
Well, a lot of drivers here in Pittsburgh need that guidance.
They do everywhere. Trust me, Gavin, on that.
All right. Did any other standards change during the same time period as the MUTCD notice of proposed rulemaking?
Yes. For example, the public rights-of-way accessibility guidelines, or the PROWAG, as we call it in the industry, was published in August of 2023. Now, this document's been around for quite a few years, but it didn't become an official rule until late last year, which really helps the industry with guidance. And what that means is that our temporary pedestrian accessible routes are accessible, that they're made accessible, and that all users can safely navigate through our work zones.
Okay, interesting. Are there any changes to high visibility apparel, particularly when comparing the garment classes of ANSI 107 2004 and ANSI 107 2015?
Yeah, there are, and these are huge. And now that was a little bit of sarcasm, because really what changed was one word. And so in the 2004 edition of the ANSI standards, the 107 2004, it says that high visibility garments should be worn. In the 2015 version, it says that they should be considered So really what I tell students and what we talk about as instructors when we get together is that we don't teach OSHA standards. What we do is relay information on a basic level and push them back to the OSHA standards and let them speak for themselves.
Well, what requirements does the MUTCD now expect for pedestrians, accommodations, and work zones?
Well, for quite a while, the industry has been using the term vulnerable road users to include pedestrians. And so that term has actually been added to version 11. So it includes bicycles, pedestrians, and including those with ADA issues or disabilities. There's been several references that have been added providing information for pedestrians in usable formats with vision disabilities, for pedestrians with vision disabilities. This would be those devices that provide audible information instead of just merely visual information. During inspections, we think that the most important duty of the person performing that inspection is to check that the devices on the project are consistent with the plan, and not only that, that they are effective to all the users. But the statement removed the verb should and added is, which it really doesn't change it. It just changes the language enough that the practitioner in the field recognizes the difference between a should statement, which is prevalent throughout the MUTCD, to something that is slightly different and leaves a little bit more room for decision on their part using some engineering judgment. There was also a statement added for short duration or short-term stationary work that states that if the pedestrian route is impacted by the work that needs to be attended by workers, that establishing an alternate pedestrian route may not be necessary if work can be stopped and the pedestrian can navigate through the work zone. It comes down to providing pedestrians with a reasonable accommodation. So we have to look at the type of work that we're doing and the duration and how long the sidewalk's going to be affected, and obviously pedestrians as well. So we need to make sure that we are doing the right thing. And this statement even goes further, is the devices that we use to close the sidewalk shall cover the entire width of the sidewalk and not just a part of it. Another little piece of this is that continuous detectable edging along both sides of the temporary pedestrian route, or temporary pedestrian accessible route, excuse me, the TPAR, it goes from 6 inches to 8 inches. So that is a significant change. And it's also stating that the devices along the edge for hand trailing should be 32 inches minimum and 38 inches maximum. So a significant amount has been added to the pedestrian portion for sure.
In our final question, what are the changes to Part 5? Part 5 covers traffic control device considerations for automated vehicles.
Well, this is interesting. I mean, for kind of a nerdy traffic guy like me, this is a very interesting change. For quite a long time, including the 2009 edition, Part 5 was set aside for low volume roadways. So that would include roadways with less than 400 vehicles per day annually, as it's looked at, outside of a built-up urban area. So rural areas where we had very little traffic. So there was some exceptions to how we apply certain things in those areas. Well, this has been replaced by traffic control device considerations for automated vehicles. So it's really quite extensive. It's a complete redo. And so what it says in Part 5 now, it says the scope and purpose of traffic control devices that are specifically being designed to accommodate automated vehicles that will be performing partial or full real-time operation functions in general traffic. So it goes back to fully or partially automated vehicles, okay? It defines the different automation system technology, defines the 6 levels of autonomy that include advanced driver assistance, part-time automated driving systems. But while this part is currently only 2 pages of information, it clearly is setting the stage for where we're headed with connected vehicles in the future. Some of the other things that we can look at in this case that will be changing are the width of markings, because connected vehicles are increasing. But because of the technology that's being utilized for those connected vehicles, the roadway environment needs to be enhanced. So what would be included with this would be longitudinal or parallel markings of at least 6 inches in width, so our edge lines, our center lines, our lane lines, and those sort of things. Dotted edge line extensions along all entrances and exit ramps, auxiliary lanes, tapers where the deceleration or auxiliary lane is added. So anywhere where a lane is going to be added or tapered sections where lanes are taken away would have those dotted lines. So it provides more guidance for the automated vehicle. Chevron markings in the neutral areas of exit gores so that they're distinguished from the travel lanes. Raised pavement markers only as a supplement to the existing pavement markings and not alone by themselves. Uniform contrast marking on light colored pavement to create greater contrast. So this would be black edges along white pavement markings so that the white stands out even more for the autonomous vehicles. And then broken lines with uniform marking and gap length so that we're providing a uniform environment for those autonomous vehicles as they travel down the roadway.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. But I'd really like to thank you, Bill, for joining us to talk about the MUTCD and all the recent updates. For Endeavor Business Media, I'm Gavin Jenkins, Senior Managing Editor of Roads and Bridges. Thank you for tuning in.